Hey, everybody, and welcome to CircuitCast with AI Connects. Today, I have a wonderful guest. It's Zack Mills. Zack is the executive chef and partner at True Chesapeake Oyster Company. This is a chef-driven brand redefining modern mid-Atlantic seafood hospitality in Baltimore. After years of rising through elite kitchens, including leadership roles at Four Seasons Hotels and Resorts and the Mina Group, Zack stepped into entrepreneurship to build his own thing. He's combined fine dining discipline with a founder's mindset to create a restaurant rooted in craftsmanship, sustainability, and regional identity. Today, he's not just running the kitchen, he's building a business that connects food, community, and culture in a way that's both scalable and deeply personal. Zach, thanks so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be a part of it.
So, Zach, I'm super excited to hear about the Chesapeake Oyster Company. When did you found this company?
So the company started first as an oyster farm about 13 years ago now. I was actually my business partner, Patrick. I was one of his first big clients when I was still with the Four Seasons. I met this crazy farmer who was trucking up oysters from his farm that were delicious. And a couple years after I decided to step away from Four Seasons and kind of decide what was next, the universe really put us together. Patrick had been living. There's apartments above us in the above the restaurant, and my partner was living in one and staring at this space for multiple years. And when I announced that I was leaving Four Seasons, several different people said reach out to Patrick. He's got something, and we walked in 2018 in the summer and saw the space, fell in love. And we ended up about 18 months later opening True Chesapeake restaurant in October of 2019.
Love that story. What a great story.
It worked out well.
So let's roll the clock back a little bit. Tell us about how you came to be with the Four Seasons and a little bit of your history and what you've been doing.
So I went to culinary school in New York City. Once I graduated, I moved back to Maryland because this was home and started working in various fine dining restaurants around the Maryland area and on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. I got an opportunity in Washington, D.C. to become a line cook at the Four Seasons Hotel in Georgetown. And at the time, there was a restaurant being built in the building named Bourbon Steak by Michael Mina. I ended up working for Bourbon Steak, opening that restaurant and working my way up. It was my last line cooking position. I worked my way up to senior sous chef within a couple of years, and ended up getting pretty ensconced in both companies, both Four Seasons and Michael Mina's restaurant group. Then I ended up becoming a corporate chef for the restaurant group, traveling the country, helping open restaurants in other Four Seasons, as well as some other hotels around the country. And then just kind of kept moving within those two companies to the point where I was the head chef in Baltimore at the Four Seasons there, which was also a Michael Mina restaurant. So it worked out really well for me. So ended up spending 10 total years with both companies, really working my way up and cutting my teeth and learning the business. And then then the universe brought me this. So it's a pretty funny thing to look back on now. I think it's been 13 years as a head chef in Baltimore now, uh, and starting to feel old when I look back on it.
So let's talk about the adventure at True Chesapeake Oyster Company. You started this venture with Patrick, your partner, in 2018, as you mentioned. If you can remember when you stood in the restaurant and thought about doing this, what was in your head? What were you thinking? What did you think the next 24 months were going to look like? And then the follow-up question to that is the obvious, and what did they actually look like?
That's a very good question. You know, I remember we saw the space, and it's behind me. You can see it. Gorgeous historic mill in Baltimore. The bones were here. We saw the exposed brick, all the wood beams, everything from, the building was built in 1796. And all I kept thinking was just kind of, letting the building talk to me about kind of what we needed, what it wanted to be as a restaurant. And I was already specializing in kind of what I grew up with, Chesapeake Bay cuisine, farm to table, heavy focus on sustainable seafood, invasive species, things like that. So we just wanted to build a restaurant that would be inclusive to everybody. You could have somebody sitting in our formal dining room celebrating an anniversary while somebody is on our bar side, in shorts and a t-shirt yelling at the Orioles game. And so we spent 18 months to get the place open. My biggest nightmare during that period of time was opening the restaurant and nobody coming. And very fortunate for me, that was not the case. Opening night, we threw a party and we invited like 300 people, thinking, 120, 150 would show up. And there was almost over 400 people like lined out the door trying to come in for this. So it was really a blessing that we opened to such fanfare. We got uh, Baltimore Sun named guy gave us 4.5 out of 5 stars within the first couple of months being open. Uh, More Magazine's readers poll named us best new restaurant. And then it turns out the food writer for the LA Times is a Maryland native, and he came in, and then next thing you know, tweeted that we were his favorite new restaurant in Baltimore. So we were very blessed to open to such fanfare. And then conversely, we did open in October of 2019.
Oof.
We got all these accolades, and then end of February hit of 2020, and we ended up spending the next close to 3 years opening and closing multiple times and dealing with the pandemic. So it's really been quite the adventure and quite the learning experience altogether. And we're just thankful that we're, after all that, we're still here and still up and running.
Terrific. Yeah. I mean, it's, there's no question that the first half of this decade was not for the faint of heart, right?
It really was not. It really was not.
So, I mean, that's an amazing story. And being able to open in 18 months is pretty incredible too. That's, there's no question that's a lot of work to get there. Tell us a little bit about your establishment. I mean, how big is it? Do you have indoor space only, outdoor space?
Big spot. Well, I guess as far as restaurants go, we'd probably call this medium. But yeah, we're sitting at about 100 dining seats in the restaurant, 30 seats at the bar for about 120-ish all in, 130. We have a patio that overlooks the Jones Falls, which is lovely. The outside of our space is kind of neat because if you look at the restaurant on a map, we're essentially the dead center of Baltimore City, but we're also right next to one of the biggest parks in Baltimore. So when you drive down to our mill, honestly, you look around and you can't even tell you're in the city. So it's very pretty, really serene space for being in the city and being such a central location. And it's a very lovely, inviting place. We have it built into 2 separate rooms. So behind me, this is kind of our formal dining room overlooking our open kitchen. And then on the other side of us is a less formal bar room with TVs and stuff like that. So we really wanted to build something that could be enjoyed by anybody who walks in, and built the menu the same way. We want to make sure that even though we're very seafood, Chesapeake Bay focused, we want to make sure that we've got something on the menu for everybody. So we try to really just make it a very inclusive, hospitable environment.
Awesome. Zach, maybe we can pull back the curtain a little bit and just talk about, a little bit what goes on behind the scenes in a restaurant like that. Maybe you share with us, your day to day. What happens? You get out of bed in the morning and then what?
Okay. So first and foremost, the restaurant industry is a stupid way to make money. It's really hard work. And it's something that is, as you said earlier, it's much like early 2020s. It's not for the faint of heart. And we really do this for the love of the game. Uh, you know, Not a lot in it for a one-off restaurant. It's really just doing it because you love what you do. My day to day, I'm always working. So I get up, there's already emails. I have not only this is a business, but I'm also a part owner in the oyster farm as well. So just making sure that I'm keeping up with everything that's going on with both businesses, checking reservations for not only the day, but for the week. I'm checking to make sure orders were placed properly and all those things. By the time I get into the restaurant, I'm really just getting us set up for success for the day. Despite being the head chef and the owner, I'm still in my kitchen every single day. So prepping current menu items, working on new menu items, training cooks is a big part of my job. I always tell the cooks I'm here to train chefs. So I'm trying to train the next generation and really get them set up for success for the rest of their career. And then, yeah, just a little bit of everything. I mean, the schedule, orders, talking to new vendors. I help with the wine list as well. I was actually the beverage director for the first couple of years of the restaurant. I now have a beverage director, but I'm a level one sommelier as well. So I like to have my say on the wine list. So I'm always checking with that. Yeah. The short answer is all the things. I'm doing all the things, whatever I need to do around here. Like we just had a gas outage over the weekend, which was always an adventure. So having to figure out when the gas is going to get put back on and making sure our guests are put in the right positions, calling them and making sure that they understand what's going on. So yeah, I'm just generally running around like like a chicken with my head cut off most of the time, and just trying to organize the chaos as best as I possibly can.
Let's talk a little bit about the front of the house. So, you talked about the kitchen, you talked about the menus and the wine. What's going on at the front of the house, and what's your role there?
So we have a general manager or a beverage director that kind of takes care of front of the house and is actually also a talented bartender in his own right. But that being said, being the position that I'm in, I'm always trying to just make sure that our culture is staying the same throughout, just making sure that our hospitality is at the highest level. A lot of, trying to make sure that everybody's not being robotic when it comes to service and just always thinking about the next step, always thinking about what the guest needs. And then, and then it's really just honing in their kind of start to finish of serving a table or serving a bar seat or anything along those lines, just making sure our steps of service are being followed, make sure everybody knows exactly about the food. Everybody's got to know the menu inside and out. Everybody should have, multiple ideas on pairings for beverages, be it non-alcoholic, wine, beer, cocktail, all those things kind of tie into a high-end dining experience. And even though that would say a high-end restaurant, but we're like on that cusp of family friendly and having something for everybody, but also just putting in those little touches that make you feel like you're in a big high-end restaurant, even though you're ideally more comfortable than that.
Well, who's to say high end has to be uncomfortable? But
Exactly. That's kind of the balance, right? I've been in the industry for a long time, and I've worked in a lot of like different ranges of places, including some really, really high-end spots. And in the back of my head, I never thought I was going to open my own restaurant until I was opening my own restaurant, really. But when I did, all I thought about was things like that. It was how do you bring a great experience into a space where anybody can feel comfortable walking in, and that's just always been in the back.
now, do you folks rely on just the fact that you're doing a great job to bring customers through the door, or what do you do for marketing, for outreach, for sales, that kind of thing?
We do a lot. So we've had a publicist in the past. We do not have one at the moment, but we do have a marketing and private events manager. And that's a big part of our business, private events. Because we have several separate spaces, it's really nice because we can be doing regular service in one or multiple of those spaces while doing a private event in one of the other spaces. And we have found that private events tend to be marketing in their own right because people are bringing a whole bunch of people that may have not, a lot of whom not been here. And then they start telling their friends, and then the word of mouth kind of helps for that. And then besides that, our reservation system is one that we put marketing dollars into as well to kind of, push us towards the top of the list if people are looking for seafood, things like that in the area. And then, I'm on TV a good bit, local television, just plugging different events, things like that. We also do a lot of charity work. We probably do 12 to 15 charity events a year, which also is kind of a win-win situation because we're helping the community and also marketing ourselves at the same time.
Sure.
So those kind of things really help. I think that's kind of the main stuff that we're really focusing on as far as getting more people in door and just making sure everybody knows that we're here.
And do you provide any takeout at all? Is it all dine in or?
People can order takeout food from the restaurant. We're not on any of like the delivery apps, although we have toyed with it. It's definitely something that's on our radar, and we've considered during the week on slower days possibly putting some kind of takeout menu together. We did that during the pandemic. That was honestly like most of our revenue during the
Right.
pandemic is doing those delivery services. But once we really got back up and running and the restaurant was humming, that was kind of the first thing to like get set aside for at least a little bit.
So one thing that's different in the culinary business as compared to, just running, say, an Airbnb or running a B&B in general, is that you have this commodity that spoils, right? You have this food challenge where food only lasts a certain amount of time. Talk to us a little bit about the challenge of trying to manage that with the ups and downs of, the traffic flow and so forth.
Food cost uh, is a very important part of our business. We have one revenue stream. Then you've got your three outside of your rent and the things like that. You've got your three main costs that you have to keep controlled, and that's food cost, beverage cost, and labor cost. And those are the three things that like we're trying to keep an eye on at all times. Food cost being kind of my under my guidance is definitely one of those things that I've been doing this long enough now that I'm usually okay about saying, okay, this is how many we have the books today, tomorrow, the next day. Here's my guesses on what we're going to do. We are fortunate that we do have analytics at this point as far as our point of sale system. We can look back on the previous year. And now that we're a couple years out of the pandemic, it's getting much easier to look at those analytics because it is a little bit more apples to apples nowadays. And then just, I joke that despite being a chef and people consider us creatives and things like that, the business aspect of this is really hard. And understanding a spreadsheet from a chef standpoint is really important thing that I try to like impress on my younger cooks. I'm like, look, if you don't know how to use Excel or Google Sheets, like get on it and start figuring it out because our lives really revolve around those things. So yeah, I log every single day all of our orders that come in versus the revenue from the previous day, making sure that everything is staying kind of in the realm of where we need to be. And then there are the creative times too. I pull my chef team aside and say, hey, we're sitting on 30 extra pounds of blue catfish right now, and the clock's ticking, so what do we do? And then that's kind of the fun part of it. Is some of our best dishes have come out in those scenarios where it's like, okay, this is what we've got in the kitchen, what are we going to do? And then we just start putting dishes together from there. But that's the fun part, is when like the what is it, necessity is the mother of invention. So it's that's kind of where we are. The balancing of it is definitely one of the harder parts, but the longer you do it, the more fun that challenge becomes, I think.
Sure. So you're, a chef creating great flavors and great experiences, a sommelier, pairing with the right, thing to drink. You're an entrepreneur, business owner, an operations manager, and a financier, right? All rolled
Yes.
in one.
Yes, that is well put. That is well put. It's there's a lot of hats. I like to joke that I have 3 to 4 full-time jobs within this place.
And do you folks own the building you're in, or is that a
We
rental
don't.
property?
No, it's a lease. So it's a big building. So we are just a small kind of part of it. It's 2 stories and it's blocks long. There's another whole private event space we are a preferred vendor in, but other vendors can come in and cater. That space holds about 250 people. We have a separate private dining room that we just started leasing from the building this year that sits another 60 people. And then upstairs, there are 40 apartments, something around there. And then there's two like major office or like companies that have offices there, a landscape architect firm and then a engineering consulting firm. So it's almost like we're in a hotel. We're just in a very large historic mill in the middle of the city.
Interesting. So, member of the community as a a group doing, um, as you say, charity work and outreach into the community, and member of the community in your building really as well, right?
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, terrific. If you had to nail down one specific thing, you said this one thing is the most difficult thing.
I would say in general, it's the management part of people. And I think that's always kind of the challenge. We have an amazing team. They're absolutely amazing. It's just one of those things that the longer I've spent in the industry, the more I realize is that, you need to get a whole group of humans to, buy in to what you're trying to do. But you might have to tailor that message three or four different ways based on how different individuals want to be taught, how they learn, how they're motivated. So I think the challenge of navigating each staff member as their own individual person and personality, that's definitely one of those things it's a lot of fun. And but at the same time, it's something, especially with young managers, that I have to then train them to then understand this as well. So yeah, the teaching aspect to this will always probably be the most challenging, but also the most rewarding at the same time.
Yeah, that's great. How big is your team?
Let's see. We've probably got about all in 30, 35 full-time employees. My kitchen has, let's see, six, seven, about 9 staff members in the kitchen. I have an executive sous chef, a sous chef, and then 7 line cooks, 2 stewards, and then the front of house team, which is about twice the size of what the back of house team is.
Yeah, so a big team, really.
Yeah, it's a good size team. It's a good size team, and it's a lot. It's definitely a lot to like juggle each and every day.
So, Zach, if you wouldn't mind, can you share a little bit of your vision? Here we are today. You've survived COVID and then some. What are the next, what's, 2 years from now, 3 years from now look like? What do you,
My general goal in life is just to get a little better at my job each and every day. And I think my, short and long term vision just kind of continues down that path. It's every time we're a very seasonal restaurant. So we're changing the menu with the season, with what local farms are producing and things of that nature. For me, it's really just making sure that I'm always trying to one up myself from a food standpoint, to the point where I want each menu to be like, wow, that's the best menu we put out. And looking back and, looking at previous dishes and, okay, how can we evolve that? And really just making sure that people keep coming in the door because the food's delicious. And I'm a firm believer that if I ever like rest on my laurels in that situation, or just be like, oh, well, we could just put the same menu out from last year, I think people can taste that. I think people can tell. I think at the same time, they can taste energy and care and thoughtfulness in food. And so that's definitely one of those things that I just want to keep pushing the food forward, pushing the service forward. I always want people to have a better and better experience as they come in. And that in and of itself will then kind of push us more into the not local spotlight. We're here. People know of us for the most part. Every now and then we'll get somebody who wasn't aware of us. For me, it's how does True Chesapeake's name get mentioned in DC or Philadelphia or New York, or just like I would like us to be. The goal is always to make the restaurant bulletproof. I think really it's can you just make it great enough that people just keep coming and keep telling other people. And that's really my goal here. We're on this is year 7, technically. We'll turn 7 in October. And, we have several more years before we renegotiate leases and things like that. And, but we technically have a 20-year lease here. So, my goal is this is my retirement. Ideally, I grow old in this restaurant, which I'm already doing. And that, and that people keep saying, wow, this restaurant just keeps getting better and better. That's just always going to be the goal.
so I just want to pull on that bulletproof idea for a moment. You mentioned the use of spreadsheets, right? Technology, clearly. You have a point of sale system, have a booking system, I presume. When you think about that, what if you had that one other thing when you get up in the morning, you think, oh, if only we had one other thing automated, one other piece of technology, what would that be?
So the one thing I am looking at right now, and have been for several months, and is a true great inventory management system. And there's a million of them out there, and I've been looking at all of them. I don't know. It's hard for an inventory management system, simply because each, vendor of food, each farmer has a different unit of measure for how food is coming in, right? So Then you got to take all that and do a whole bunch of data entry to get it to where you want it to be. And then every season you're changing it and then you're doing more data entry to do that. And, it's fine. It's just, I don't know. It's just waiting for one to somehow help me like navigate the fact that like, well, this is only going to come in as a case every time. And that case is going to have, could shift by 5 pounds depending on the day it comes in. Or, this comes in count form as opposed to, and just like, all those things. And then the thing is, for me, my recipes are all in like grams and milliliters and kilos and things like that. So then it's translating that, from the US system into that.
Or ounces into, yeah.
100%. No,
Yeah.
it's one of those things that, there's a million different units of measure in the food industry. While there are several inventory management systems that do a great job, and I'll probably pick one eventually here soon, none of them are perfect. And I think they'll get there, but it's one of those things. A lot of times the inventory management systems want you to, order your food through them, which then sends another email to your vendor. It's just very complicated sometimes. So yeah, it's one of those things and I have worked with them in the past. Four Seasons had one that, we were required to work with and we were fine with. But at the same time, the amount of data entry I needed to put in as a chef, I warn cooks, like, it's like eventually you got to get on a computer a lot more than you think you need to. So that's definitely kind of a challenge that is always navigating.
Zach, I really enjoyed talking with you. When we're speaking, you can feel your passion about the food and about your restaurant and about the experience you're trying to curate for the people who come to your establishment. And I think that's amazing. I also love how you're spending the energy to coach your team into that vision and into delivering that experience, in a consistent way. Sort of some unique challenges in the restaurant industry because you're dealing with so many different dynamics, right? A relatively large team. You've got a kitchen to run and all the back office stuff with that. You've got a bar to run. You've got reservations. You've got customers to serve. So very incredible, the job that you're doing. And I, for one, really actually want to come to the Chesapeake Oyster Company now and try your food.
Please do. Please do. We appreciate it. And yeah, we're just, we're a group of hardworking people that just want people to feel the love we have for what we do, as well as just, what a lovely building and space that, deserves the best.
Well, let's give it some more deserving. What's your URL and what is the actual address of the building?
Okay, so truechesapeake.com is the website, which you can actually look at the oyster farm and the restaurant. There's options for both there. On Instagram, we are at True Chesapeake as well. And then the building is 3300 Clipper Mill Road in Baltimore, Maryland.
Fantastic.